Did you know that the repetition of fundamental elements allows you to store movement patterns in your muscle memory? Today, we're going to be talking about all things muscle memory and fundamental elements of your pro dance life. And in challenging situations where adrenaline is pumping and sensory input is high, hello auditions, the body's muscle memory responds automatically, aka it can go into default mode of what you've been practicing. I heard a quote the other day that says, knowledge is nothing without application. Knowledge plus practice equals a skill. And a skill with feedback is a refined skill, and a refined skill plus repetition is an automatic skill. And that's what you really want, right? When you're in auditions, when you're going into that default mode to what is your kind of automatic, that should be a refined skill. It does take some time for muscle memory to actually come into effect. It can actually take several weeks up to months for something to become part of your muscle memory. It all depends on your current skill level and where you're starting and how often you're practicing. And I know that there are a lot of you out there who are really on the fence about starting your training journey for upcoming auditions, whether they're going to be this season or next season. But I just want to encourage you to really start thinking about the process now and start practicing now, because it is so much more than just showing up and learning a routine and performing it. So today I wanted to talk about the 3 elements that will help you with muscle memory and some of the fundamentals of pro dance. And the 3 elements are consistency, focus on technique, and visualization. So first up, we have consistency. Consistent practice is key to improving in general, but also your muscle memory. Regular performing of an exercise or movement can help the brain store the motor skill of information and then adapt it. I love the quote of, amateurs practice until they get it right, and professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. So I ask you, how are you practicing right now? Are you practicing until you get it right, or are you practicing until you can't get it wrong? You are auditioning to be a professional athlete. So making sure that you are showing up consistently so you can practice until you don't get it wrong and working on the right things is so valuable. Which leads me to the next piece of the puzzle, which is focusing on technique and focusing on the right things. When you focus on technique, I truly believe that is where having a coach is essential, because you are wanting to focus on the proper technique. And when you're trying to improve muscle memory, performing an exercise or movement correctly can help store that correct motor skill, right? We keep on going back to that motor skill and muscle memory. Did you know that if a plane leaves SFO and is headed to JFK, and the autopilot is 1 degree off of where it's supposed to be going, it actually ends up in Connecticut instead of JFK? And that is the value in you being guided by a coach. Can you imagine if you were working on your double turn every single night, but you did not know the fundamental piece of needing to spot when you were turning? You show up day in and day out because you've heard me say, hey, if you don't have your double turn, you need to be practicing that every single night, right? You show up, you practice, but you don't know the actual fundamentals to get you there. That is where you'd be doing yourself a disservice because you didn't know and you didn't have a coach in your corner giving you the consistent feedback that you need to help you on the correct path, like that SFO to JFK flight. One small deviation can lead to significant error. Lastly, we have visualization. And this is where visualizing yourself performing an exercise or movement can help improve your muscle memory again. I always recommend that you listen to music after you learn a routine and you're practicing it. You throw your headphones on, get the music really in your brain, and just close your eyes and picture yourself doing the routine. I've often found that the part where I practice and I forget or I mess up a piece when I'm doing that is often the part that I mess up when I am actually doing it. And so when you can visualize yourself doing it correctly, it actually helps with your muscle memory to be able to do it correctly when you show up and do the routine. This is also really helpful when you are taking a class, and if you keep on getting stuck on the same piece, I like to take a breath, close my eyes, and just focus on that 8 count that you're messing up, right? What's before, what's after it, what's that piece in between that you are forgetting or you're slipping up on or whatever it is, and visualize yourself actually doing it correctly. You saw the choreographer do it. Imagine yourself doing it in class, and that oftentimes helps with pushing through that boundary or barrier of the routine. So there's a lot of talk about this muscle memory and motor skills, and it's something that it's not necessarily the sexy part of being a dancer, but it is how athletes show up and get better. I don't know if you've heard of John Wooden, but he was actually a very successful NCAA college basketball coach. And every season when he had new recruits come in, the first lesson that he had with them was about tying their shoes. So he said, before we hit the court, I want you to remember, it's the little details that are vital. Little things make big things happen. And the first thing we're doing is we're pulling our socks up properly and we're tying our shoes properly. And that the key to success lies in mastering the basics. I really want to encourage you to think about your training as a process and not a finish line to get to. And I know that there is that finish line of auditions, but what if you could enjoy the process of becoming better every single day? And that is truly through the fundamentals of dance, which comes with muscle memory to support you on this journey. So you know exactly what you're doing when you show up to auditions. A low V is always going to be a low V. A high V is always going to be a high V. And those are going to get thrown into routine. And so if your muscle knows exactly where it needs to go every single time, that becomes automatic. So you can then think about the facials and the judges and the performance instead of the pieces of the routine that you just have locked in. I hope that was helpful for you. And if you feel like this is something that you need support on, we actually have a monthly program that you can join in on. It is our Unleash Your Inner Pro program, where you get to learn choreography, and then we really dive into the basics and fundamentals of performance and of the routine every single month, every routine that you learn. So I encourage you to join us there. I will add the link below in the show notes. And then also, we will be having our NFL mock auditions on March 15th in Las Vegas. And that's where you really get to see where that automatic muscle memory comes into play. And I like to do these tandem, right? We have dancers who are in our monthly program, and then they go straight into mock auditions to see the growth that they've been having. And so if that is something that is of interest to you, I encourage you to sign up for that as well. I will leave all the links below in the show notes, and I cannot wait to talk to you next week.